Hi everyone, I'm Bernie Macguire, a singer, songwriter, musician from Australia. Now we'll be doing vlog week 3 and I'll be responding to people's questions and we'll be talking about the new Open Case album. It's a soft rock album, really proud of it, and as I said, I'll be answering people's questions. Now Helen's from Semaphore in South Australia. Now Helen's question is, do you feel stressed or nervous in a studio while you're recording? Helen, that's a great question. It's a big question actually, because it's quite involved, and obviously we don't have the time I could talk about it for hours. It's such a good question. I think the best thing for me and for everybody else as well is to be preparation and being well rehearsed, and it's definitely the key thing for me. When I was younger and we did a lot of touring or we were playing a lot of gigs, I would start my day very late in a day and I would finish very late in the night, evening, and probably sometimes into the early hours of the morning. This album, we started at 9 o'clock in the morning and we finished the day at 4:30 in the afternoon. Believe me, that's not my best time of day. So prior to going to the studio, I would make sure that I was well rested. I would leave home early. I would warm up my vocal cords in the car with the windows up to make sure that I didn't offend anybody. When I warm my vocal cords up, I don't really sing. I just make funny noises and mouth movements and just make sure that I'm all refreshed by the time I get to the studio. And the other key thing for me is just never be late. Get to the studio on time. And if I do that, I'm always fully relaxed, which is very, very important. Now, I'm a pretty organized person, so I usually go into the studio with 2 sheets of A4 paper with road maps and information on there for each song. Each song is very different from the other. And I would have, say, on one A4 sheet of paper, I would have the lyrics, I'd have the music, I'd have highlighted chord charts, I'd have harmonies, I'd have exactly what the harmonies are, the lyrics for the harmonies and where they were located, and I'd roughly know the length of the song and certainly the tempo of the song. And sometimes John, who is the producer, John Lyons, fabulous producer, so thankful that he's with me on the album. And John sometimes would say, "Oh, Bernie, I think that tempo should be just a little bit faster on that track. Can we give it a go?" So obviously I'd grab a 6-string again and I would, the tick would go for me to work to, or a beat, and I would do it just a little bit faster. And John, what do I say? Look, if it works, great, terrific, move on. And if it doesn't, we just go back to where we were. It's just that easy. So as I said, John was so easy to work with. Now the second A4 piece of paper, that would have the instrument selection that I would have for each particular track. Keeping in mind with this album, we start off with 3 soft rock songs, and then we have a love song, and then there's a few ballads in the middle, and then it finishes off with rock songs again. So every song has its own requirements, its own instrumentation has to be in there, because every song is quite different from the last. And that was very, very important. And if I've got this information, and if I'm very, very relaxed and I'm happy, then I found that everybody else in the studio was just equally as relaxed and as happy as I was. Obviously, if I went in there when I was very stressed, I think that would probably reflect on these other people as well. And I just know for a fact that the album would not work at all. Now, I road test all these songs as well. Every song I thoroughly road test to a live audience. And I can always tell by the body language of the audience that maybe there's one line in one verse that's just not working. So I'll go back to the hotel or the motel or the caravan or home, wherever it is where I'm working from, and I will write that portion of the song, and I'd go back the next night and I'd road test this song again. And I would do that until I was happy with it. And I always do that before I went into the studio, and that always would give me a lot more confidence as well. Now, I think that's probably all we can talk about with this, Helen, because I'm going to run out of time. I hope that answers your question. I really do. So I think the best thing is for me to say thank you very much. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you next week.